All right. So a small intimate gathering tonight. Uh, I was reflecting on what might be beneficial, having been following Venerable Samten's talks over the last couple of weeks. And I really think that what could be really helpful and practical is understanding the best use of this time that we do have. How do we interact with others and engage in our daily life in ways that reduce suffering and unpack this opportunity to make good use of our rare and precious human rebirth. That's what she was discussing last week. The inspiring aspect of I have this opportunity, I have this 18 very specific conditions right now in this very lifetime to become enlightened, to wake up, to no longer suffer, to be a benefit to all sentient beings. Sometimes that's easy to lose track of as we wake up and look for our morning latte and think about what we're going to do today. But there are ways that we can bring that awareness into our days that are really practical and make the best use of each day. And it starts with our intention. There's within the Eightfold Path, we have right view and right intention. So intention, motivation. Why are we doing what we're doing? But if we can glimpse into that, we have an opportunity to transform everything that we do into a path of awakening. So I have this opportunity, and these days will come and these days will go, and much of our days are on autopilot, really. We're doing stuff. We're reacting to things. Things happen, I react, things are going on. I'm planning things. A day will come, a day will go. And much of that day, I really won't even remember. And much of that day, I wasn't even there because my mind was somewhere else. So I don't know where my car keys are. Or, what was that I was supposed to do when I walked into a room? Have you ever done that? Walk into a room and, why did I come here? Our minds are somewhere else a lot of the time. So first step is becoming aware of what we're doing. And that's why a meditation practice like the one we just did is so valuable. It's allowing us to develop the skill of continually coming back. So I can be aware of what I'm doing. If I'm aware of what I'm doing, I have an opportunity then to engage with what I'm doing with some choice instead of habitually, out of habit, out of conditioning. And that's where, as human beings, we tend to be, even if we're conscious in a very habitual way. And we're sticking labels on people and things and events. And we're trying to surround ourselves with the things that we like and get away from the things we don't like. And if we could just get the world to be the way we'd like it, maybe we can be happy. And it's kind of a pattern, which doesn't work very well and does not accord with reality much at all. So how do we start engaging in this world in a way that cultivates a sense of well-being, a more accurate way of engaging the world that actually reduces suffering instead of increases it? And that requires some presence of mind first. Venerable, I guess we just call her Jetsuma Tenzin Palmo. She says that one of the most valuable lessons she's ever learned from all of her teachers over time is a practice of just checking her mind 3 times on the hour. 3 times an hour, just stop and just check. Where's your mind? What are you doing? Spot check, no judgment, no, just what's your mind doing? Where are you at? 3 times on an hour. It says you can set a cell phone, set a reminder. So a quick glance, just what am I doing? And she found that was something that was one of the most valuable lessons she's ever learned. in terms of being aware. So a real valuable lesson, you just check in. Where is my mind right now? And if we develop that kind of attention in our day, it will really support a practice we do in the morning, because we can do this nice little practice in the morning and then have a very obsessive compulsive mind throughout the next 16 hours of our day. So it's pretty easy to undo what we create here. We create some attention, and then we step out into the world and we lose it. So that little spot check, nice little spot check. And then I encourage people to reflect more discerningly as to reminding themselves, why are you here? Why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you doing what you're doing? Because that is going to be the biggest factor in terms of cultivating any sense of well-being, any sense of wisdom, any ability to really support yourself in a life that you find meaningful, let alone cultivate highest potentials. Why am I doing what I'm doing? All karma. And some of you I know spent the weekend with Venerable Samten on the weekend of karma. The single most determinant factor isn't the action. It's why you're doing the action. It's my motivation. So I start to understand that's the single most important factor in anything that I do, is why I'm doing it. And I have some awareness. Maybe I can bring some awareness to why I am doing what I'm doing. Wow, that's going to be a powerful tool. And there are certain motivations that will reduce suffering, and there are certain motivations that will increase it. So I'm going to go back to the Pali Canon. And the Buddha at that time in the Eightfold Path, he talks about this right motivation. And he noted that there are certain motivations, certain intentions, I think motivation is a better word, motivation, that create a lot of suffering. Number one is really craving, craving, greed, desire. And when it's used in that form, it's really important to understand that it's a craving that is bound up and wrapped into misperception, misunderstanding, exaggeration, confusion. Not all desire is terrible. Matter of fact, some can be quite beneficial. You might have had a desire to come here to cultivate compassion. Pretty good desire. So it's not that having a desire is the source of suffering. That's what a lot of people get stuck on. But the desire they're talking about is a craving that's unsatisfiable, that is wrapped in confusion, that actually creates suffering. And so it's an exaggerated sense of attributing qualities to that which I desire, which aren't in them. I'll be so happy if I could marry so-and-so. I can't live without them. It's a desire that, could I not live without someone? Or a healthier desire might be, here's someone I really value and like to share my life with as much as I could. And hopefully we can truly be a benefit to each other on our path. Often we confuse things like attachment with love. And that causes a lot of pain. When we love someone, if we love someone, we really want the best for them. But often we don't always want the best for them. We want them to act in a certain way where I feel good about them. And I don't so much love them, I love how they make me feel when they act in a particular way that I approve of and feel good about. And when they don't act that way, guess what? I don't love them so much. Do I really love them, or do I love how they make me feel when they act in a particular way? And I get attached to that, and then I get attached to an idea, well, if I can just get them to act that way more often, wow, I can really love them. But in fact, I'm really not loving them at all in that sense. I'm creating an attachment. And Venerable Robina Corton, one of my favorite quotes ever, is love never hurts. Attachment does. And that's that distinction between, our motivation. If I really love someone, I'm willing to extend myself for their highest potentials, for them to flourish in the ways that are meaningful. And that includes me too. It's not just them. If I love myself, well, I'm willing to do things that are healthy and meaningful that help me grow and make the highest use of my life. And not engage in unhealthy habits and behaviors that I don't feel good about the next day, that really keep me limited, that create suffering. So the highest expression, I think, of love, this would be a John Brunaism, is a dedication and a firm commitment to healthy interactions with self and others. Healthy meaning doing things that promote our highest potentials and really fulfilling the life that we find is meaningful. A dedication to really healthy interactions for myself and others. And sometimes that could mean boundaries with people. And sometimes it means there's people I shouldn't be around. It's not healthy for me. It's not healthy for them. My interactions with my spouse, my interactions with my children is really, let's focus that on what's the healthiest thing for us to engage in that will really promote our best welfare. And that's different often than I get attached to having my house be a certain way, my partner be a certain way, my kids be a certain way. What was the big news right today is the big college scandal, that where these parents are spending I don't know, all kinds of money, right? It's a multi-million-dollar thing where people are wealthy getting their kids into a particular college. And so they can have this life, be in this particular college. Now, is that because they love their children? Are we reaching for our highest potentials? And or is that because we're attached to a fixed view on, how we can get something or have them have something or kids turn out a certain way? And it creates suffering. Matter of fact, some of those people will be going to prison. We see it often in, I was a father who had my daughter go and do sports. A boy sitting with the parents on the sideline could get rather scary. I sometimes catch myself slinking off over to the side and just sitting here. That energy that parents could get over their kids and how those, their attachment to how things should be, could verbalize into some yelling and some pretty unkind things. And often we think that we do that out of love. So out of our confusion, sometimes we mislabel things and our misperception. And that's where a desire or an attachment or a craving is, in this sense, is actually creating a lot of suffering. And that is a core root problem. If you look at the foundation of Buddhist teachings, is at the core is a misperception that leads to a craving, a desire to have things a certain way and other things not be a certain way. And it's out of exaggeration and misperception that we then create all the karma in our lives. And we do a lot of things that we don't feel good about, that aren't healthy for ourselves and others. And we get resentments, and we get anger. We start labeling people and we get them into categories. And then something really crazy can happen, like someone we don't like could sit next to us in a car ride for an hour, and it could be intolerable. Another human being sitting in a car with us could be intolerable. Another human being just trying to be like us, sitting in a car. I could be like, oh my God, I have to be with them for an hour. Worse yet, I could just see someone walk by a window there and have anxiety just because of the label I put on them. And so we create this habitual way of living in the world where we reactive to people and things and events, and we stick labels that don't fit, and then we make them permanent, and then we exaggerate, and then we say things like, I had the worst day ever. And we actually might think that's true. Really, the worst day ever. Carbondale, Colorado. I wasn't in the worst day ever. In that worst day ever, how many good things happened in that worst day ever? Food, clothing, friends, a car that started, food that so many people don't have. So we get misperceiving, and we get grasping, and we exaggerate, and then we just think that's the way it is. And so this creates a lot of suffering. And if we start to become aware of these sources of suffering and that really create damage, that craving, that desire for things to be a certain way, for me to have certain things to be happy, exaggerating their qualities, well, that's one. That will also lead to, out of that desire to do things or have attitudes and motivations of ill will towards others. This is really damaging. Ill will towards others. Ill will. We want others to suffer. I mean, think about that, mind. I want others to suffer. Why would I want someone else to suffer? Why would I really want them to suffer? Inflict pain on someone. And we do. I mean, in real subtle ways. I mean, we just think, yeah, I hope so-and-so gets caught, I hope they suffer. We might be thinking about particular people in our political landscape or people that we know in our lives. And you may find, man, I really hope they get theirs. But we're not hoping that they get theirs so that they can grow and learn and have their highest potentials. We're not wishing goodwill. We're not hoping that they're held accountable in a way that can make the world a better place, and maybe they'll have an opportunity to see their delusions and grow. Or we just want them to suffer. That mind is one that, by its very nature, is suffering. And the third one is wishing harm, wishing harm on others. Subtle distinction there. So the Buddha noticed that out of our confusion, these motivations of harm, like me harming someone, somebody wishing ill upon others, and this grasping and craving, all of these function to help reify samsara, to make our environment here filled with grasping and suffering and discontent, stress, worry, and fear. You may notice there's quite a bit of that in this one. What we don't notice is that we're creating most of it. We actually think it's because of them rather than how I'm perceiving them or the seeds I'm watering in my mind. That is actually creating the suffering, which is here, not there. I mean, if somebody's hitting you with a baseball bat, well, that's a different thing. They're hitting you, it suffers. But someone's sitting next to you in a car or walking by, or we hear about something, or we think about them in a minute, that's all in my mind. And that has a direct relationship to how I'm perceiving and misperceiving who they are and the labels I'm sticking and creating the suffering. And then wishing ill or actually inflicting harm. Saying something where I hope they feel some harm. Doing something. I hope someone has some harm. Well, that creates suffering. So if I'm doing this, it's usually very subtle. I don't always notice it. And sometimes I'm doing it, I'm aware that I'm doing it, but I have no idea that it's even harmful. I could be talking about someone that we all know, and we can all get on the bandwagon about they're like this. And then everybody validates me. And then they're really like this. They're annoying, they're a jerk, they're selfish. Anybody know anybody who's selfish? Yeah, everybody. Have we ever been selfish? Yeah, I have. It's funny though, I can call someone else selfish. They're so selfish. Me, I've been selfish, but I'm not selfish. Has that person that I'm labeled selfish ever been not selfish? Yeah, of course. Have they been kind? Of course. Have they been helpful? Of course. But I found one little glimpse and I stick that little label on. And every time I see Johnny selfish, I say, man, Johnny's selfish. And I actually believe that to be true. That's how labels and misperceptions happen. I take one quality of one event or a series of some events, and then I stick that as though that is the very nature of that person. And I actually believe it to be true. And then we talk about how selfish John is. And then we just reify how selfish he is. And every time I see John, there's that selfish guy. That's what comes to mind. Not there's another human being a lot like me who's trying to be happy and find their way in the world and engaging the world in ways that we're trying to find some happiness. And I don't know how much suffering they've had. I don't know how many traumas they've had. I don't know whether they were loved or cared for or not. I don't know any of those things. I do know all of those things give rise to how they're showing up in this moment. And the fact that maybe I was loved a little more than they were, maybe I could show up in a different way than they do at that moment. I don't evaluate all that. I just, well, they're selfish. Or they're rude. And I believe it to be true. So that's how we create a lot of our own angst, frustration. We reify a world that doesn't exist. And then we wish ill upon others. And we create a lot of desire about how things should be and how they shouldn't be. And what will make me happy if things are a particular way, including my partner. Because I love them when they act in a particular way. Not so much when they act in another way. And I think that that's what it should be. So Boo said, well, why don't we start investigating that and recognize that there's certain mind streams, certain attitudes, certain ways of engaging the world that just create this mess that we're in. And there's some that undo that. And so this is where right intention is. The right intention. If we were able to be more aware of what we're doing and why we're doing it, well, now we can unpack something and engage in the world in a way that liberates. And the first one is renunciation. So the three, just rooted in the Pali Canon of right intention, renunciation, goodwill, and harmlessness. So the opposite of craving is renunciation. And renunciation does not mean that I'm living on a few grains of rice in a cave somewhere, sleeping on a bed of nails. I wonder if they actually do that. There's people who've done that, right? A bed of nails thing. Or is that just cartoons I grew up with? Mm-hmm. Not sure. No, there's a guy who does that. There's a guy who does that. There's at least one. There's a guy who walks around in sandals that has nails. Oh, yeah. Yeah. He's the nail guy. The nail guy. Yeah. Wonder where he gets his nails done, man. I don't know. Oh, jeez. So to renounce is not that we don't enjoy things. As a matter of fact, through renunciation, you can actually enjoy things. You can actually really love someone. You can enjoy a meal. You can fully enjoy a meal. What we're renouncing is the delusion around it. What we're renouncing is the grasping to it. We're renouncing the attachment to it. Because the attachment's tied up in an exaggerated quality about that person, place, thing, event. The story we tell about it, the exaggeration and the quality to it. So we renounce the delusion that that person, place, or thing is actually the source of our happiness anyway. We might be more clear that they're a condition that I'm enjoying at the moment. And that's valuable. And I can appreciate that. But that moment will come and go, and that person will change, and I will change, and the event will change, and this day will come, and this day will go. And instead of trying to freeze something or someone in time, and try to always make it like that, because that's suffering. My relationship shouldn't change, my job shouldn't change, Carbondale shouldn't change, and my favorite restaurant better not change. I want to freeze it all. That's craving, that's grasping. When I renounce the delusion of exaggerating, that that's the best restaurant ever, or this is the only place I can live ever, or all those types of statements, I can actually live somewhere and enjoy it for what it is and all the beauty. I can enjoy a meal because it's the only time I'm ever going to have that meal. I might go to the same restaurant, order the same dish, but it won't be the same meal. I can enjoy it. Be grateful to have a meal, and maybe I can use that meal in a way that will nurture me, in a way that I can be healthy, or share it with others. So renunciation is to renounce the grasping and the craving and the habitual, I will really want things to be this way, in a certain way, and a belief around that. And this is a hard thing to undo. It's a hard thing to undo because we have lots of habits. We all know that we have habits that we know are not healthy for us, right? Anybody got a habit that's not healthy for you? I do. And that's why I'm going to change that. How's that working out? It can be pretty challenging to change a habit. I know it's not very healthy for me. And that could be as simple as, just watching too much TV. It could be as simple as exercise. It could be all types of things. But there's just lots of mental habits too that I have to do, and lots of ways that I distract myself. There's so many ways that I can know I can improve if I don't do this or if I start doing that. But I can't do that. There's a habit around that. So how do we get away from that craving, grasping, attached mind? And the Buddha's skillful method is we examine it. We examine, is that person, place, thing, event really all you're cracking it up to be or not? Is it the source of my happiness, or is it actually the source of my suffering? Which is true. Which is true. And so this is where the teachings that Samten is giving is really helpful, because through those long room analytical meditations, you start noticing my attachment, noticing how I exaggerate the qualities of a person, place, or thing, how I create a story around it, and how that actually creates discontent instead of contentment. I mean, how much of our day do we spend cultivating contentment versus discontent? What would your life be like if you start cultivating contentment? Yeah. Boy, I wish I had one of those. Where instead of, how wonderful this hot water is. How wonderful that I can see, I can talk, that I have clothing. I get to be in a place where there's people who are working on being better people in the world. It's pretty amazing. But our mind can go to, I think things should be different. Pretty quick. And so this is that renunciation, is renouncing a delusion of these things, that craving mind. And the skillful method is to start to poke at them. Start to poke at them. One of we're really fortunate now because we have all this science and research that we can have access to. So we don't have to take the old yogis, sage advice on just their word. You can look at the science on happiness, you can look at the science on suffering, you can look at the science on craving. And it will show that very important things in our lives, like getting a college degree, having a marriage, getting a divorce, having a house taken out in a tornado, just major life events, things like that. Those types of events, pretty significant. If they happen more than 3 months ago, they have virtually no impact on your level of well-being today. And we really think they will. And then we just take a moment and look at your life right now. How many wonderful events have you had in your life prior to this moment? You can't calculate them. You just can't calculate how many wonderful moments you've had, how many times you had the right meal, a good night when you're a kid, a great hug, or a nice moment in a day, or a loving whatever, the vacation, the raise, the praise at work, the whatever it is, we've had more than we can count. But does that really change your level of well-being today? Or could you be miserable, in despair, upset, frustrated now? And you've had all of those moments. But you know what my mind will say? But if this next thing happens, then I'll be happy. If I can just dial that in. If I just dial that in. And how many times have we dialed that in? And then the next day we could be unhappy. I don't even have to wait a week. I may not even have to wait a few hours. I could have dialed it all right in and been frustrated 3 hours later. So that's the delusional thinking, is that if I can just arrange this world in a particular way, I'll be happy. And it's an exaggerated, misperceived view of the world. That's actually always creating suffering, because I'm always on that cycle of trying to get people, places, and things in a particular way, in ways that don't exist, that don't accord with reality, and don't freeze in time. Because everything's changing all the time, and how I'm engaged in any particular thing at any particular time has a lot to do with me and my attitude towards it, the mind I'm bringing to it. Am I aware of the 100 wonderful things that are going on in this day, or just the one thing that isn't? What am I paying attention to? So that's all me. So renunciation is renouncing that delusional thinking. It's renouncing the attachment, the exaggerated attachment, the craving that goes on around the idea that, man, if this happens, I'm going to be really happy. I'm going to really enjoy that for a little bit. But if I can bring a renunciant mind that says, well, this is a worthwhile endeavor, and if it happens, I feel good about how I engaged in that activity. And is it the best, most worthwhile endeavor for me? And can I just enjoy a nice dessert as a nice dessert? Or is that going to be planning about, wow, how can I get some more of these? Yeah. They had like deep fried cheesecake the other night. Little raspberries. It's good. It was. I had a delicious experience with it.
How do they keep it from falling apart?
I don't know. I didn't go back to the kitchen. I just ate it. It was this Asian place. Yeah. But I had a delicious experience. And that was wonderful. Then there's another one. And what we forget is sometimes a delicious experience is hot water on a cold night. Sometimes it's, when you're really thirsty, any water. And that the sensation of that pleasure, the actual sensation itself, is the same whether you're in Kauai or whether you're in your living room. If you're aware of the sensation itself. And that we can have that sensation, that same sensation of a dear friend smiling at us, or a beautiful view, or an event that we feel good about. And yet we're always trying to get all those things instead of being aware of that sensation, which, by the way, would happen a lot more if we cultivate contentment instead of discontent. Thich Nhat Hanh, he really has this wonderful thought around the non-toothache, right? Feel really good about not having a toothache right now. When you have a toothache, it's brutal. And it's this thing, that's what my mind's on. And then you get taken care of, and then it goes away. And there's this feeling of, wow, I'm so happy that's gone. It feels really good. And then it's gone. And then my gratitude for it's gone too. Because I'm not really thinking about it now. But I don't have a toothache right now. That's pretty good. I've had them. I can see, I mean, there's so much that I'm not aware of. But when I can't see, that's a pretty big deal. If anyone's had your eye poked or you can't see or whatever, or you can't walk around crutches or whatever, we get pretty grateful. Wow, I don't have a busted knee right now. The non-busted knee, it doesn't work as good as the non-toothache, but it's the same idea. I'm not hungry right now. It's a pretty good thing. I mean, contentment. There's so much that we have. And the thing about it is, in our culture, we have so much. We have so much. And you would think that would eliminate suffering, but it actually increases it. The more you have, the more complicated our life, the more grasping we have. And then we don't have the latest, newest bed. We have pretty techie beds these days, the right firmness. And they're expensive too. I slept in the monastery. We had a little cushion like this, thing. And dinner, breakfast was bread, tea. Sometimes you got an egg. I was grateful we got an egg. Because they never boiled it right. Talking about discontent. I got an egg. But because they're cooking for 3,000 monks. So, they don't cool down the eggs. So when you try to peel it, the little things break and it's peeling the whole thing. So you spend 20 minutes trying to get to that egg. So I'm not sure I was content or discontent, but yeah, it was kind of a love-hate relationship with the egg. I mean, I was happy when it got there. Yeah. And then lunch was bread, a vegetable dish, and tea. But real simple and it was really wonderful. And studies have shown that the more choice you have, the more suffering you have, the less contentment. I mean, I think we can figure that out. If anybody's ever tried to pick out a bag of potato chips down the aisle. Yeah, right? I mean, there's all that, and you're just like, my God, I want this. Well, what about that? Well, maybe, you know what? Can't buy them all. Okay, I'm going with this. But my mind's still thinking, well, I wonder what that other bag was like. And so what happens with more choice is the mind's always going with, what about that other one? But when you don't have much choice, that's what you have. There's a bag of chips. You're happy to have a bag of chips, and you're content. And so all the studies and happiness and so forth has shown the more choice we have, the less contentment we have, because your mind's always thinking about the next thing. What I didn't get, I'm wondering about it. I mean, you can see it when you go to a restaurant with a big menu. There's like a discussion sometimes. We did land on the cheesecake. It was fried, but we also got the chocolate layer cake and a little bit of ice cream. and the fried bananas. But we don't see how we're doing that to ourselves. We create craving. And so if I'm aware of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, maybe I can start to be aware of, am I exaggerating or not? Maybe I can bring some renunciation. What we're renouncing is the delusion. What we're renouncing is the attachment. That could be how wonderful it is to have a meal. There's hundreds of millions of people who don't. I do. I can renounce the delusion. So that's a really valuable, powerful way that we can transform our daily interactions, is being aware of my motivations and bringing the right intention in. One of equanimity instead of exaggeration, one of contentment when it's appropriate. Not to say there are times that we wouldn't be sad or unhappy or there's suffering and we need to deal with it, but we don't need to exaggerate it. There's enough actual suffering in the world. I don't need to add to that. And then instead of ill will, is my motivation one of goodwill? Do I really want the best for this person or myself? Do I want a healthy interaction? The idea of goodwill is I really want the best for him. So back to loving kindness, this immeasurable attitude of loving kindness. Is my motivation one of loving kindness, where I really want the best for them, for me? Am I dedicated to a healthy interaction? And sometimes that means that holding someone accountable, or even being, when somebody's doing something clearly either illegal or unhealthy or unwell or harming, that we can show up in a way to really dedicate ourselves to a healthy outcome, which might be someone going to prison. But we don't need to go to prison so that they suffer. We can want them to be in prison because clearly right now they're not acting in a way that's for their own highest potential or society's. But they're a valuable human being just like me, who maybe didn't have the opportunity and the loving kindness of understanding that they have value and didn't need to do those things to be happy. That there's a suffering person out there. So we can have this goodwill and still have boundaries, still have accountability, still have healthy interactions. We're just not wishing ill upon them. We're seeing their value. There's a human being who might be doing something harmful, but they're doing it. It's their action. It's not their nature. And so what's the healthiest interaction in that way? And then what about goodwill about people we do love and care for? Do I really want them to have their best and highest potentials fulfilled? Is there some way I can be helpful in my interactions, or they're not behaving the way I would like? So I might manipulate them a little bit. Just a little bit, I like them. Goodwill, my interactions with my competitors in business. If I wish ill upon them, boy, I hope they go down the tubes. Or if they're in business like I'm in business, well, probably the same kind of business. Hopefully they're helping people and I'm helping people, and I wish them well. And if they're doing something meaningful, that's a good thing. Maybe we learn from it. Goodwill. What's my motivation, my interactions? Or am I gauging people in what they can offer me or not offer me? Are they beneficial to me or not beneficial to me? Because that's fundamentally the problem. Is I'm seeing the world to whether you make me feel good or not good, whether you're a benefit to me or not. And I start putting all those labels on, and then it's me and you, and the people I like are people who have my values. The people I don't like are those who don't have my values. And I'm judging the whole world through my mind stream, and whether or not you're beneficial to me, whether or not you see the world I do, like the way I do. And then I think that's you. And I put you in categories. Instead of just recognizing that we're all human, we're all struggling to find our way. We're all trying to have some happiness. We have shared values. We want our kids to be healthy and well. We want them to be educated. Sometimes we confuse that with our attachment. Bribe a bunch of people to take tests for them and get them into colleges. If that's done out of confusion, then we can recognize that, maybe understand that that's a behavior we need to address, but it's not the value of the human being. And then the question is, what do we do about it? Can we show up in a way with goodwill, wanting the best for everyone, having appropriate, healthy interactions with good boundaries that are beneficial to a greater good? Goodwill, want the best for you. And then the third one is harmlessness. Harmlessness. Can I engage in my life without harming as much as possible? And so that's compassion. So we've got renunciation, loving kindness, and compassion. Compassion, harmlessness. Are there ways that we can act in the world that reduce suffering, that reduce harm? And that often starts with us. One of the most challenging things I think many teachers have talked about, and I think a real clear understanding, and there's actual whole trainings on it, is how do we show ourselves compassion? In the West, we are so hard on ourselves. We have a self-critical mind, and we are often harder on ourselves than we are other people. And we don't recognize our own value. And that's one of the biggest causes of suffering, is our own inflicted way of thinking about ourselves. We're not good enough. I didn't do this right. I should have been like this. I should have said that. I could have done that. And it's just on and on and on. What if we had harmlessness towards ourselves? Wouldn't that be awesome? What if we just knew that right now we're valuable, we're enough just as we are. Just as we are. We're valuable and no less than anybody else. We're going to make mistakes. While there's always room for improvement, right now in this moment, we're enough. We're okay. And just as worthy and valuable as any other being. That would be self-compassion. To actually give ourselves that credit in a real intrinsic way. And that's a journey. I think that's one of the lifelong journeys that many people are on. They talk about it in terms of wholeness, right? The journey to be comfortable in your own skin. The journey of recognizing your value. And not better than anyone, just not less than. And that you're enough. So when I think about harmlessness, it begins here. So, because the more I recognize that here, it's amazing how I can interact with others. Because I'm not in competition with anybody anymore. When I'm okay, guess what? You are too, generally. Because I'm not competing. I'm not less than. I'm not comparing. I can listen to you. I can actually learn from you instead of, constant comparison and evaluation. Just recognize that you're a lot like me, trying to find your way, and that we're doing this together, and other people are okay. And some people are struggling, just like me sometimes. And this incredible opportunity comes as we cultivate a sense of well-being, a sense of value, a sense of worthiness that allows us to interact with others and be more connected to the world out there. So harmlessness really beginning here, because if we examine our self-critical mind, you'll see it's generally there a lot. Because generally, the way we operate in the world, it used to be Westerners, but I just think it's the modern world with all the stuff that's going on. As we compare where we are today and how we experience ourselves in this moment, all too often we compare it with who we think we should be. Some mythical version of John who should be like this, and I'm not there. As opposed to something that's accurate, which is how John showed up today with how John used to be 5 years ago. I'll tell you what, in my life, that's a lot of progress. I bet you'll find the same. That we've been on a journey, and in our journey, we've had life lessons, and we've improved over time. And if we keep doing that, big potential, it'll keep working that way. But our minds generally, again, it's not the non-two thing, right? It's not how far we've grown. It's not what we've accomplished. It's not the lessons learned and all the good we brought the world. What'll go on in our mind is what I didn't do right, how I should have done this, and what I haven't achieved yet. Instead of recognizing all that we have done. And we'll get caught up in a mind stream that'll often say things like, I always get caught up in this anxiety, or I always get frustrated like this, or I always make the same mistake. None of which are true. I don't always get anxious like this because there's all the times I'm not anxious. I don't always make the same mistake because there's a lot of times you're not making that mistake, which is like most of your life. Most of your life, you're not making that mistake that you always make. But I do it, and then my mind says, there I am doing it again, as opposed to all the time I'm not doing it, which is most of my life. And then people will say, I'm trying to get that peace of mind. Well, have you had that peace of mind? Yeah. In other words, I've been the person I want to be. I've done these things many times, most of the time. But that'll go out the window when I'm not showing up in the way I think I should. And that becomes prominent. That's not true. Do I have room to grow? Yeah, that's true. But always, and this focus on something that I'm not, instead of what I am, what I've achieved, how I've shown up, and the courage to show up in difficult times. Have we ever showed up in difficult times? I bet we all have. And do we give ourselves credit for that? Or do we sometimes say, man, I shouldn't have been, like, instead of feeling angry, when I feel angry, think I shouldn't have been angry. How about I felt angry and I didn't react? Like, that's a good thing. That's a skillful thing. I had these turbulent emotions and I didn't succumb to them. Or I had these turbulent emotions and I did succumb to them. And that makes me human, not broken. Because everyone's done that. And I have a desire to improve. And that's a good thing. But our mind often doesn't work that way. And we continually beat ourselves up or have a self-critical mind. And this not only creates discontentment, it creates despair. And it creates a narrative. And we reify that. So how about compassion for self? And one of the biggest ways that we can remove the suffering for ourselves is to notice when my mind is telling me things that aren't true about myself. Would you talk to your best friend that way? When your best friend made a mistake, what would you say then? And you say, man, you're such a loser. There you are doing that again. You always do that. Or what would you share with your friend? What if I could be aware of that self-talk and start treating myself like I would treat my best friend? What would that be like? Might be compassionate. Might be harmlessness. And the beauty of that is we get to bring that to others. So while much of compassion is noting others and their suffering and noting our interactions with them, are they creating more suffering, or am I showing up in a way that can help others? I think a lot of times it's easier for us to do that to others than it is for us. It's a lot easier to help someone else than it is to quiet my own self-critical mind. And we actually get, what's the word I'm looking for? It's almost like not okay to be relaxed. You know? Like, I should be productive. You know, you can't even just give ourselves a break. Like, you know, you want your best friend to relax and have a, you know, but me, you know, I do it, and then there's a guilt, a little guilt. And I'm not being productive right now. It's amazing. It is so hard. We teach in another course, you know, about relaxation and how many people have issues around that, about just being relaxed. Like I should be doing something. How about taking care of yourself so you can do something? Yeah. So, right intention, renunciation, goodwill, harmlessness, which is a renunciation of that delusional, exaggerated quality that we bring to people, places, and things. Be aware of that, so we can bring some equanimity, a real perspective to our interactions. Loving kindness, goodwill. Can we ask ourselves what the healthy thing would be to do? Sometimes we don't know what to do. It's funny, I often will be, you know, talking to someone and they'll say something, man, I just don't know what to do. And, you know, often I don't think that's true. Because when somebody says, I really don't know what to do, and they're in a difficult situation, I'll ask them, well, what do you think the healthy thing to do would be? And that's a different question. I don't know what to do. What would the healthy thing be to do? And you'd be amazed how many times people can say, well, the healthy thing to do would be this. Like, well, why don't you try that? This is their trick. No, I don't want to do that. But so it's not that I don't know what to do. I don't want to do it, or I don't know how to do it, or this, but there's something so clarifying when I use the word healthy. What's the healthy thing? It's not the best for most people. So that I think is really this very tangible way of bringing loving kindness to the world, a real dedication to the healthiest interactions of self and others, and compassion. How can I act in ways that reduce suffering in myself and others? What's my motivation? Is it to inflict harm or to reduce harm? Is there anything about self-critical mind, beating myself up, that's helpful? I'm going to say the answer is no. Is there something about motivating? That's different. Self-critical is, yeah, I have some things to learn. I'm not very good at this yet, or I could improve that, or I'm working on myself. But doing that from a space of recognizing that you're already okay, that you're valuable, that you're worthy. And that's encouraging rather than self-critical. So the invitation is to see if we can bring a little more awareness into our interactions and awareness of those motivations. Why did I say that, really? Did I say that to be a little snippy? Did I say that because I felt threatened? And if I did, well, how can I improve that? Maybe I can interact with someone or do something with some more clear perspective in a way that has goodwill, loving kindness, and harmlessness, compassion, and to work on that. And here's the deal, because this is what happens. We have this nice talk, and we think, oh, yeah, I'm going to be more loving, kind, we have more goodwill. And I go out and I screw up. And then the mind says, as opposed to, this is small steps, and I want to bring a little more goodwill than I used to. I want to be a little more loving than I used to. I'm going to just work on bringing it more into my life as much as I can. And I'm really going to practice the most important tool of compassion, noting that when I don't do it perfect, I'm still valuable and okay. And just the fact that I have the desire to improve is amazing. And give myself a pat on the back because I screwed up, but I'd like to do a little better next time. That's beautiful. This way we start reducing the suffering in our lives and others. And then our life becomes our Dharma practice as we engage in those intentions, being more aware of why we're doing what we're doing. That brings us right to 7:30. So I hope you found that helpful. And those of you online, thanks for joining us as well. Let's go ahead and do our dedication. A huge part of karma is our intention and what we do. And then at the end, we have this great opportunity to really cement it, that this time, these thoughts, things that we've shared, our actions, that we can dedicate them for the benefit of all sentient beings. We really get to add a little oomph at the end as well. So let us dedicate the merit and the wisdom that we've accumulated here today and throughout our lifetimes. Dedicate this for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all sentient beings be free of suffering, find lasting happiness, find liberation, recognize their true nature. And may we be able to use the merit and wisdom accumulated here today and throughout our lifetimes, all the good that we've brought. May we use this to purify our own minds, to help us see more clearly, to engage in our lifetime with more renunciation, goodwill, and harmlessness, so we can find our own liberation, free ourselves from suffering, and recognize our own Buddha nature for the benefit of all sentient beings. All right, well, thank you all.